Well, hello and welcome to the Alpha Anywhere demo and Q&A. I'm Dave McCormick, VP of Product Management here at Alpha Software. I'm pleased to present, as always, Dean McCormick, no relation, who's our lead solutions engineer. Today, Dean will be covering, I believe, the Alpha launch application, which a lot of people have expressed interest in. But after that, and perhaps more importantly, he's here to take your questions. So go ahead and type those questions into the questions box of the GoToWebinar interface. So I'm ready to get going. Dan, I'm going to, apparently you're already
Yes, sir.
Hey there. Ah, perfect.
How's that? Am I coming through okay?
You are indeed. Let me go ahead and make you the presenter so that I can see your screen.
Dynamite.
And I can see your screen, so you're all set.
Excellent. Well, hey, thank you, everybody. I've missed you. It's been a couple weeks here. We've had a crazy couple weeks. First, we had the phenomenal Alpha Developers Conference. And in fact, I'm going to feature one of the cool things that was demonstrated and coming out on that. We're going to do a little bit more in-depth dive with the Developers Conference. I want to make sure there's a lot of good content already online for that before we do that, but we'll be running through that for everybody who was not able to attend, and we look forward to seeing you next year. It was just a great event. The training went really smooth our first day. We had everybody just really engaged and going forward on it. I think they're going to produce some amazing things with that knowledge. And just the interactions were just off the charts. So it was just cool to be able to access the developers, to access other developers, and the marketing people. Everybody was there, and it was just a real fun event. Very tiring event because there was just so much going on, but a very fun event. And then also, I apologize I wasn't able to make last week, but we had a offsite training event that I was hosting, and that went really well. But as always, we're back in the saddle here, and our primary goal is to help you address any kind of questions you have and get beyond those questions, anything that's have you stuck or you're curious about. So do take the time, as Dave mentioned, to put your questions into the questions area of the GoToWebinar control panel, and Dave will be monitoring that through my presentation and lining them up for a review and discussion from there. But today, what I decided to do was to one of the key features that came out of Alpha was a new way to deploy your app, with very innovative kind of use of existing technology within Alpha. And so I'm going to actually take a step back and talk about the different ways to deploy your app. So there's one thing to get it built and working on your local machine and everything's good, but now you got to go to market and you want to get it in the hands of users. And especially when you're talking about a mobile, there's actually three distinct ways in which you can you can go to market and go to deploy your application. So what I'd like to do is walk through those ones very quickly, and I'll just run down to our screens right here, so bear with me. And then once we have that in place, then I want to actually show you a couple demos of some of the cooler new stuff that was going on. So the idea is that, hey, I built this app, but now I need to get it onto my local machine, or onto that machine out in the field. And how do I do it? And there's actually multiple different paths that are available for individuals to be able to do that. So you have really three different methods. Method number one is just to put it on the Alpha application server as a mobile optimized system, and then people can just use their web browser to access that application. Works very well, supports offline, although there's certain limitations. It's the easiest, fastest, less expensive, and very ideal for, especially in your initial parts of your project, to do proof of concepts and get them out. And if you're not dependent upon any the PhoneGap plugins, such as background geolocation or some other fancy aspects, it's perfectly viable to deploy using the mobile web browser. And in fact, I have a number of customers who are doing that because they thought, hey, this works. It's easy. Whenever I change anything, I just need to update the server, and boom, the next time the person logs in, they're good to go. And it does support offline capabilities. So if they happen to get disconnected while they're working on the app, no problem, it'll still sync in it. And I'll show you an example of that in a few minutes. The second methodology, the more powerful way, is through PhoneGap. So with PhoneGap, you go through the PhoneGap build process, and you either create a IPK or APK, depending on whether it's iOS or Android, and then you distribute those. Now, there's a number of different, this is where the complexity gets in. Because of certain requirements, especially on the iOS side, it's not super easy to distribute. On Android, you can literally send out an APK and people can download and install that, and then set their security parameters accordingly. But the real trick here is that to do that, you need to go through the PhoneGap build process. There's a build process, and then then you have to distribute it, and then people have to install it. So there's a few more mechanics that go through to get this out in the hands. But the benefit is, since it's a self-contained standalone app, you get all the power that's available through Alpha and through the PhoneGap build architecture to be available to all of your people. And we're going to actually be talking about this in the next few weeks. There's some cool kind of way, and actually it'll kind of make a lot of sense with Alpha Launch. There's actually newer ways where you can kind of develop and deploy the core of your app, but then be able to have other features, capabilities come along in a dynamic fashion that is really powerful. It's kind of the best of both worlds from that standpoint there. And last but not least, which is what I want to focus a lot on today, is the new Alpha Launch product, which is now available in the Google App Store and also the Google Play Store and the iOS App Store. And what the Alpha Launch is a pre-made shell application with most of the important PhoneGap plugins, and you'll see you can actually deploy fully mobile, disconnected, PhoneGap style applications without having to go through the build process. And so it's a neat alternative for, especially during early testing and other aspects like that, to just reduce the amount of mechanics you have to do to get it out in the field. And potentially it could be if you're comfortable with the branding aspects of it, which you'll see, then it could be a very viable go-to-market strategy to speed up how fast you can get things out there, especially if you have a small maybe business-to-business scenario, or you're not worried about the branding aspects. And again, as I show you a demonstration of there. So you have three deployment methods. First is the mobile web browser. We're just going through that, and then it operates within the browser on the mobile phone. Has all the capabilities of Alpha, but you don't get the PhoneGap plugin capabilities. The second one, again, is using the PhoneGap build, where you go through the build process, and then it spits out a app that can then be deployed through the application stores. The beauty of it is it's indistinguishable from any other app they download, so they really have no idea how it was built. It's another app that they have available. And with that also you get access to all of the PhoneGap build APIs and interfaces, so you actually have a much tighter relationship with the hardware than you do before. And now the Alpha Launch. And I'm going to show you a demo in a few moments, but it's a very interesting capability where we have a pre-made, off-the-shelf, approved application that's in the app stores, and you can dynamically load from a server a solution that you have built with Alpha, and it will operate within our shell and have all the benefits of an app, but without having to go through actually building a PhoneGap specific app and deploying it and the other pieces there. It's really, really cool, works very well, and we're actually putting together more documentation on how this process works. So I think it's going to be a real important sort of tool in your tool chest that you can use to rapidly build and deploy apps and test them and get them out there without having to go through a lot of rigmarole from that standpoint. So I'd like to show you actually all of these operating kind of in their native environment. Actually, I'll be showing really the web browser one. People are familiar with the PhoneGap app build and the app launch. So before I do that, I just want to do a quick process check, make sure my screen and audio is coming through okay, Dave. And
yeah, it sure is.
People are putting in those questions already, I hope.
They're not putting in enough, but we do have a few. We have some excellent ones, the ones that were submitted, though, I have to say.
Excellent, excellent. Now, I'm going to be showing you my phone, and my phone is live, so you're going to see some stuff pop up. Nothing incriminating, but it's a live phone. So let me go ahead and do this. Let's go to, bear with me. Hold on a second. I need to set this up real quick. Only take a moment. I'm going to go ahead and stop the screen sharing just for a moment. Nothing's wrong with your machine. Don't adjust it. But I have to get it, the QuickTime Player up and all set up for you guys there. So, movie recording.
This is one of those do not adjust your television set moments, like in...
Yes, exactly. We have taken control.
Yes.
Okay. Yep, I'm glad I did that because it failed the first time through. Come on. Whenever it wakes up, it just tries to launch everything known to mankind. There we go, almost there. File new, movie recording, and okay. Okay, so you should be seeing my screen again. We've got 9 unanswered messages, some phone calls, etc., and all good to go. So this is a classic, app. What I'm doing is I'm scooting over, and I'm actually going to launch our DevCon 2016 app, which we built at the Alpha DevCon. This was in our training here. This is the sample app there. And you'll see that this is actually a live app that's up on my server. It is operating within the web browser, but what I did is, and I don't know if you guys have seen this trick, you can take any website and save it as a home icon on iPhone, and it gets rid of the message bar up top. So you have more of a native feel. You know, I could go right into my web browser and access this directly through my web browser, but what I did is, let me go back to there. So I've got that little home icon on my home screen right here, this one that I'm showing you. And so that launches it right. It is going into a web browser, but it just gets rid of the top level, so it looks like more of an app. But this is running there. So I deployed it to the server, did a URL, and now all the functionality and capability of our DEF CON app works right here. And it's all live and online and ready to go, including syncing and offline capability. You'll notice I'm going to go in here. I'm going to go ahead and edit, say, the address of this place. I'm going to change the address to maybe it's on the south side of that street. Save that. Save it. You'll notice now I'm back at there. You'll notice there's a little orange caret there because I am working offline, and you know, I could disconnect and be okay. I'll keep all that. And then I press the cloud icon to go up from there. So as you can see, there's really, once I have my app running how I want it, I just deploy it off the server and boom, give a person a URL and they're able to open this up, and it works really fast. I mean, it has a very fast native feel. It doesn't feel like a, you know, a web app. It feels like a regular application. It has all the capabilities to, say, capture images and do all that stuff there. Pretty straightforward. You know, there's certain limitations on this in terms of, say, you know, you can't use all the PhoneGap plugins to do fancy stuff and other security elements, and you're limited by how much data you can really have offline and sync with local storage. But it works great, and it's fast and simple and effective. So that's option number one. Now, option number two we've talked about before, which is go through the PhoneGap, and where it actually develops and deploys it as a mobile app. And, you know, an equivalent to that is, where is it? Let me go ahead and show you this. Where is it? Where's my, there it is, In Our Parish. This is an alpha app that was created for a company. It's deployed through the App Store, and this is a native app that's done there. I can put in, you know, I could go in, I don't think there's any churches using it in Austin yet, but no, not yet, so I'd have to get that there. But as you can see, this is a full native app, meaning this is being launched and working as a native app. And it has its own little icon. This was downloaded through the App Store, and it's available through the App Store, called In Our Parish. It's for churches to communicate to their people. We actually have a back-end system and a mobile app that is available to talk between them. People can, you know, find out information about services, send in prayer requests, talk to individuals, get information on what's going on in the parish, etc. It's a very effective way for churches to communicate with people out in the field. And again, built with Alpha, native app. Now it's, well, it's a PhoneGap app that's downloaded and available on the machine there. So that was option number two. Now option number three is very exciting, and it's called the Alpha Launch. And where's my launch ones? Do I have it on here? I better have downloaded it. Oh, it gets. Well, this will even make it more interesting. I'll go to my App Store. I just got a new phone, so that's why it's my new phone here. So I'm going to go ahead and go into search. I'm now in the, let me take that a little slower, I'm sorry. So I have my iPhone here, and I want to be able to use an Alpha app. So I'm going to go into the App Store. I'm going to go into the search area, and then I'm going to type in Alpha Launch. That's the third one down there. I'm going to press that. This is in the Alpha Store, or in the Apple Store. There's also a Citizen one there. I'm going to bring down my Alpha Launch there. So as you can see, it's starting to download it. It's a very small and lightweight app. Now I'm going to open that app. So now I have that app on my local machine, or on there. So just to show you is that if I go back to my home screen now, there's my Alpha Launch app. And you can see it doesn't even have the Alpha logo or anything. It's just Launch. That's what it's there. Now when I first go into the Alpha Launch app, it's asking me, well, you don't have any apps currently loaded. That's the cool thing, is think of the Alpha Launch as a shell app. It is an app that allows other apps to live within it, and most importantly, as a host of that, it provides its services, such as the PhoneGap infrastructure to be able to do that. So let me go ahead and click Show List, and then I will use the default one, and you'll notice that it clicked OK, and I'll go through that in more detail. So Alpha has a server that has been set up where we've published a series of different apps: the Cement Truck app, the Pump Jack Pro app, and the Northwind Example app. And these are all living up on that server. So they're not actually on my system yet, but they're available from that standpoint there. But now I can say, you know what, I want to actually run that app within my launch. So I'm going to go ahead and just do Pump Jack Pro. So I'm clicking load, and you'll notice what it's doing is it's dynamically loading all of my project files down onto my local system, and now I click OK. So now you'll see we're at the Alpha Launch main screen, and now we have a app, and I could add more of these if I want, and these could be just, each one could be a different requirement, different customer, etc. Now I can enter into that app, and basically what Alpha Launch does, it will launch this app as a native app inside of, so that it basically goes away and says, now here's your app, serving it up as if you were open on the home screen. And so this is a complete capability. This is the Pump Jack Pro app, which by the way is available for free download from our Git repository. But now I can go in here and, it's an Alpha app. It can do everything I want it to do. It's using all of the new techniques and capabilities, including things like, nice little screens and enter points, using our new form view capability, graphics, SVG, etc., including things like, fast, easy enter of data, and also, let me go back here, guideline. I can actually see a little video. So it's downloaded all of that content and made it available for me offline. So that all looks good there. And I think also, don't we also have a, no, not there. So and then also I'm going to go ahead and just do a sign and submit. So I'm going to go like there, and I'm going to click submit. And now it's submitted in. I'm good to go. I can put in some information here, etc. I can click here. Now notice what it's doing. I've just downloaded the Launch app. So it's asking for permission to access the information. Now what's really cool about this is a one-time request, so any app I download in Launch will be allowed to use this. So I'm going to say yes. You'll notice that it picked up my latitude and longitude and inserted that from the hardware. So now I can click on that, I can pick it, and it will just give me the current there. Put a little more text here. And then also I can access, and you'll notice again, the Launch program I've asked to do a camera, and so what it's asked me to do is to approve the Launch app from using the camera. And again, this is a one-time deal. So I'm going to click OK. Then I've got like a little screen here, and I can take a screen and use that photo. And now I've got my photo in there. And you'll see this was all done without having to go through the PhoneGap situation. So now that I'm good to go there, I've got my deal. So really a huge time saver. But the important thing I want to get across to you is that it's a full-blown PhoneGap style app, meaning it has all the functionality and all the benefits of going with PhoneGap. Now, we have a preset set of plugins, so if your requirement requires a specific plugin, there may be an issue there. But overall, most of them, camera, geolocation, and all those kind of things have been built in, and we'll be enhancing this over time as we improve it from that standpoint there. And it has all the offline capability, everything you've come to know and love, and you're able to use that from that standpoint there. So I launched Pump Jack Pro. That was my one. I could have multiple apps on here, each one. So let's say it's a corporate system there. There it's live. Sorry, there's my friends being annoying. But one thing I wanted to show you too is I can go into settings. And so you'll notice here I have Alpha Software Demos. That is the server in which we're getting stuff from. And so what we can do here is we can add a new server. And I'm not going to add one here because I don't have it set up yet. But what we're able to actually do is add a server. So what we do is we take the Launch app, we point it to a server, which is a URL, which has the Alpha application server, and my items there that are available. So what it allows me to do at this point is I can create my essentially own private app store that's available within that. And so I can go in and enter the server name, the URL of that server, and then once I've done that, much like the Alpha server, I will get then a list of apps that are available from that server that the person can then download. So that when I go to manage and add, I can click add, I can specify the URL or use the default. I think the URL would be the way to go there. And then point it to that, and then it would give me a list of available apps on that system that I could then download. So now you have an alternative way to distribute your way. You have an alternative way to distribute without having to go through all the PhoneGap capabilities. And this is our first version. There's lots of really cool stuff that's planned to improve it, to add to it, and we're going to be bringing out some documentation on it. But I wanted to let you know that there's now a new and improved way you can go out and basically deploy your application. So you're now not just limited to either through the web browser or that. You can use our Shell app. And by the way, you could use the same technique yourself, and we'll be showing you how to do that in the future to create your own kind of private app for this scenario. But the great thing I'm excited about is, especially during the test, you don't have to go through all the issue of like, okay, if they're iPhones, I have to go out and do things like, for instance, go to get their UUIDs and register them with Apple and those other things here. I can go into test mode by merely launching it within this environment. They can use it, say, during the initial test area before I then go into more wrapping it into a full-blown application and other pieces right there. So very excited. We're going to be spending a lot more time in the next few months teaching you more and more how to deploy Alpha items, how to set up your own server, how to set up the Alpha Launch to do it, and then more importantly is as we get your feedback on these technologies and capabilities, we're going to figure out ways to improve the Alpha Launch so it makes it even easier. I'm thinking, you know, there's a lot of areas we can do in security and other aspects. And these are true apps running locally on the machine, so you get all the benefits of a PhoneGap app without a lot of the hassles of going through the, and they're not that many. I don't, you know, it's more logistical challenges, not development challenges. But we're very excited about it, and we got a lot of really positive feedback at the DevCon. There were people just clamoring because they saw how they could use it to accelerate that. And especially if you look at a company, again, if you're not too worried about the Alpha logo and everything else, who cares? If you get the job done, you get the job done. And so we have a lot of people, especially larger companies, that are saying, great, this is, now I don't have to teach my guys how to use PhoneGap as much. You know, there's probably a few guys who may do it, but a lot of our citizen developers, we can just go ahead and use this and get it out there, and it's going to be perfectly acceptable for their team. They can speed up deployment and opportunities, and it's a lot of fun. And again, this is version 1, a lot of really fun things planned, and a lot of training that will come out around this. So that is the 3. So we really have 3 methodologies that you saw. You could go through the web browser, you could go through the PhoneGap deployment, and then you can also use the Alpha Launch product now to be able to do it. And if you want to, you know, there's no reason why you couldn't create your own kind of Alpha Launch kind of structure, because it's really an offshoot of our PhoneGap shell technology with some extra added sauce. And again, we're focusing very heavily on how how we can enable developers not only to accelerate the time it takes them to create an app for very sophisticated apps, but also, more importantly, decrease the amount of effort, time to get the app out actually into the hands of the people who are going to use it. And by doing that is really powerful. One of the other things I'd like to mention about the Alpha App program is that when you upload it, you can version your apps. So therefore, when you need to redistribute an app, it could be as simply as upload it to there and send a note to your user. There's a new version of, say, Pump Jack Pro ready, or Food and Safety Health. Go ahead and download that, and boom, they get the latest and greatest version. Again, you didn't have to go through the build process, send it to all the app stores, etc. Very exciting, very fun, and can't wait for us to see more and more about how the developers in the field start using this to accelerate and enable them to get to their business goals. So that is the Alpha Launch capability. One of the most exciting things. There's also some other really cool stuff we'll be going over, especially around web services. There is some really amazing stuff coming down the road on web services, and also some very amazing things that have been done in the Alpha Cloud area to accelerate your ability to spin up, deploy apps. It's just, we're going to be able to literally go from concept to deployment in a very, very better than anybody out there, given the infrastructure pieces we're putting in right at this place. It's just super exciting. We can't wait to see what you guys do that with that out in the field there. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it back to Dave, I apologize again for the little messages and stuff like that. That's the danger of using live systems. I'll have to. I think I'll have to put in the budget, get another iPhone or something like that. But I want to pay for another service charge. Maybe Wi-Fi only. So.
Yeah. Great. Well, hey, thanks very much, Dan. We had quite a lot of interest in that, and we do have some questions related to Alpha Launch. So why don't we just do the Alpha Launch ones first, and then I'll move backwards to the other ones.
And I'm going to warn, this is so new. We're getting our hands around it in the marketing and training group. So we'll do the best. And if we can't, we'll take your information, get the information back to everybody.
Great. So, okay, so question one is, so with Alpha Launch, would you not need to pay the $99 per year to Apple to be an app developer?
I would say yes. Yeah.
Someone asks, what do we need to do to start using it and to get it set up?
I have the same exact question. In fact, Dave and I were. So I'm going to let Dave answer that. Dave.
Yeah, right. I'm digging into that right now. I'm working with Dan, who's the creator of the Alpha Launch, and we're going to start documenting the process to show you how do you get your own applications in it. It's not terribly difficult. There are a couple of JSON files that you need to create and make available and put up on a web server, but we will get into that. Just won't get into that today. Another question is, with Alpha Launch, is Aperion needed? Aperion, the multi-device management system, mobile device management system. And to that I would say, well, it depends. Aperion is a very robust mobile device management system, and it has an awful lot of features built into it. But if what you were basically using Aperion for was just so that you could get things published and distributed and deployed quickly without having to go through the store, and also because you wanted to keep your applications out of the public stores, they might be internal-only applications. No, you wouldn't need Aperion to do that at all.
Yeah, it's really, where we can take this is pretty mind-numbing. I'm so excited about this.
Great. Question about modifications, branding, and the source code.
Excellent. No, that song, my girls love it. My name is, no. That is all being worked out, on how the pieces are.
That is being worked out. There will be, I believe, a fee for us to customize Alpha Launch. Alpha Launch will not be included as part of the development environment, so I don't think you're going to get the source code. But the Alpha Launch that is up in the stores today is a free application, and you could use that to deploy your own applications.
Absolutely. There's no requirement. We don't charge.
If you want to use our version of it, there's no charge, and you can. Next up, is there a date for the next release? Well, according to my sources, who are pretty good, this month, and I don't know exactly when this month, we will have a new official release of Alpha Anywhere.
Hallelujah.
4.4, 4.3.
And there's a lot of stuff in there, man. It's crazy.
There's a lot of stuff, especially that new toolbar builder that you were talking about.
Yep, the control bar.
The control bar, sorry. Yeah, that's going to be super cool.
Yep, a lot of enhancements around IIS. We'll be having a rundown when they get that release out, but things on IIS. The other thing that's very exciting is that, and this one's kind of just been released, but we're going to include support what's called for SQL Server Compact, which will be helping us for demos and training and other things like that. So this is going to be a real powerful release, a very enabling release.
Great. Another question, as you were talking about the three types of deployment, if I recall, they were the just simple web browser. One was with PhoneGap and one was with Alpha Launch. The question is, with the mobile web browser, you might not have access to all of the hardware, but can you still use the camera with a mobile web app? And if you can, are there any limitations?
Absolutely. In my demonstration, you'll notice that I showed the Alpha DevCon, which included an image capture capability, and it works fine. It basically uses the browser requests to the hardware, so you'll get a question to the user saying, allow them to use the camera, and if you say okay, you can do that. But once you've done that, you're good to go. So yes, absolutely, the mobile web browser one will allow you to do the camera. The benefit of Alpha Launch is that the way security works is that the app requests permission to say get location data and that way the user just, you can't sneak an app on and start grabbing their information. Once you've done that once within an app, it registers that app saying the user has said, for instance, Alpha Launch can use location data and Alpha Launch can use the camera, and therefore for the life of Alpha Launch it doesn't require you to ask that question again. So
Right.
that's one of the nice benefits of an app, is that you ask once, you get permissions, and then from then on you now have access to the hardware.
You also, I believe, with with the PhoneGap plugin that controls the camera, a couple of things that you can't easily do with the mobile app. First of all,
That is correct.
if you're using HTML5, which is the way you do it to capture an image, it'll always pop up the standard interface saying, would you like to go to your photo library or would you like to activate the camera? But with the plugin, you can say, skip that box, go directly to the camera, or skip that box and have it just look for a barcode or something like that if you wanted to use the camera that way.
Yeah.
So
And
barcode
that's-
scanning is something that doesn't work really very well, I think, or at all. If you're just
Yeah, I don't think it works at all because it relies on JavaScript libraries to interact with the hardware and do some stuff. Another example of that is the EXIF plugin, and I don't know if that's included with Alpha Launch or not.
Right,
But what you do is when you take a picture, you can actually get the EXIF information, which is the metadata about that picture, and store that along with the image itself, which for certain situations is nice. You get a better history about it. So,
Yeah, that's super useful. The orientation, where it was taken, all kinds
exactly.
of stuff recorded in there.
Resolution, which device took the picture. I mean, it's just, a lot of very good stuff there.
Fantastic. Okay, and someone has asked about the slides. When will they be available? We should have the slides from the DevCon available, I hope, early next week. I'm still gathering them together from the various speakers. And for those of you who attended, and only for those of you who basically purchased a ticket and showed up, we're going to make some of the videos available then as well. Moving on, someone asked about the Alpha Cloud and what the approximate pricing might be. And what I would suggest you do, because the pricing is going to be based a lot on your app, how much it's going to be used, how many users, what processes. There's a lot of different factors that go into it. In fact, we had a couple sessions at the DevCon just to talk about that. But what you can do is you can send an email to sales@alphasoftware.com and say, I'm interested in participating in the beta. And what this is the beta is basically as if they've set you up with an account and they put, fake money, fake to you can't get a refund on it, but we'll put a certain amount of money in each month. And you could sort of see, wow, how much use am I getting out of it or not getting out of it? And you'll probably get a much better sense for what it's really going to cost if you play around with the beta. And now is the time to do that because we are offering free beta. So, I mean, that bandwidth is costing us money, but, we're paying for it, not you. So if you're interested in participating and seeing how it all works and what it costs and things like that, just send an email to sales@alphasoftware.com and say, I want to be a beta tester for the Alpha Cloud. Next up, and soon, Deanne, I'm going to have to ask you to do a demonstration for us. But I know, finally we'll get into the meat of things. That might be it. Oh, the last one has to do with the roadmap, and the Alpha DevCon roadmap will be available when the other slide decks are available, so that should be next week. We're also working on a more official version of the roadmap, which will be its own standalone document, and that might be a couple weeks later. If you have information about that, though, go ahead and send an email to guides, GUIDES, @alphasoftware.com. So, Ken, let's jump into a practical thing here.
Yes.
This one is a question about, let me just find it here. It has to do with filling in text boxes from a SQL data source in a UX. And let me just go find the question so I can ask it properly. Can you show how to set up a mobile app so that it will populate text boxes with data from a SQL server?
Okay. That's our standard. Wait, uh-oh. What's going on here? I was working a few minutes ago. I might have to restart my, it looks like my parallels. Let's see if we can go here. Maybe it just needs to wake up.
Okay.
No, it doesn't look like that. So
You don't have the PRLCC process running, do you?
no, that one's kind of gone away.
Oh, good, good, good. Yeah.
Just quit this real quick and then restart. Yeah, I'll just suspend it and restart it. Thank you, everybody, for your patience. It was working. I did check it before I started. It was on my checklist. So.
That's how it worked in rehearsal.
But, you know, first time back in a couple weeks, things are a little rusty. And,
Yeah.
There we go. Okay, we're relaunching that. And again, what I really like about Parallels Desktop, which I'll show you in a moment once it opens up, if it opens up. It's not, there we go. You'll notice I have, for instance, multiple virtual machines. Like, for instance, I have one virtual machine I just used to download all the latest pre-releases and play with them, so therefore it doesn't disrupt any of my other programs. So it's pretty handy from that standpoint. Okay, goes back in there, and yay, we're there. Okay, great. So, you know, if you're creating a mobile app, the heart of any mobile app is the list control. So let me go ahead and just create a very simple one. It'll only take a few minutes here. So I'm in the alpha development environment. For people who are not familiar with it, this is our environment. Here are all the different things I can create and use for my app. The heart of it are things called components. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new component here. And I'm going to use a web component. And for people who've seen this before, bear with us. And there's a UX component. You know, you could deploy grids, but it's not really mobile oriented. But then the UX is the heart of any mobile application. It's our form builder. So I'll go ahead and go there. Now, Alpha ships with a lot of really nice pre-made capabilities in here. So I'm going to go ahead and just put in my favorite, which is the panel navigator with tab buttons. And now I have my mobile app. And I can show you a quick preview of it real quick. There we go. So it's good to go. So I've got my SQL card and all those pieces here. And this is just a simple app. Now, as I mentioned, the heart of any app is going to be the list control. So I'm going to go to my panel card number 1 and add a list control. And the list control is what I connect to my backend database. So I'm just going to go list customers. And then I go in here to my list control quick setup genie. This opens up a genie that allows me to identify where I'm getting my information from, and we use connection strings. We can connect to SQL Server, MySQL, NoSQL databases, Access, etc. As you can see, I have a different one. So in this case, I'm going to connect to MySQL. This would be a Access database. This is actually Excel. This is the Northwinds database on my Access, and then this is a MySQL database. So we're connecting to a SQL database. Now, once I've selected that, I'm saying basically I want to populate this list from fields from a table. So I'm going to go ahead and double-click and open up there. Here are all my different tables, so I'll just go ahead and select our customers table here. And now I've told my list where I want to get my information from. Now I can tell it, well, what data do I really want to bring back in? So here are all the fields that are located in my customers table. So I'm going to go ahead and add a few of these things and click OK. And now that I've got that, I'm going to go ahead and add a detail view. Now, we're using more and more the form view. I don't want to go through that right now, but I'm going to just to answer the question quick and dirty, we'll go with the detail view and add the detail view. So what this is now going to do is create a set of fields that are related to my field list for me automatically, and buttons to manage that information. So I don't actually have to write that out myself or create that. And last but not least, since this is a mobile, I most likely want to go ahead and persist the data to local storage, so it would allow me to do that. So I click OK. So now I have there. I'm going to do a couple cleanup things real quick. So first I'm going to take this is my list. This is what's going to bring down the information and present it to the user. Then I have a container here. I'm going to go ahead and move this down into panel card number 2. So it's going to be on the second page, so I have a little cleaner look and feel. And then last but not least, so I could actually run this right now. And you'll see it's not pretty yet, but and I'll go ahead and do this on a iPad. So you'll notice, you know what, I've got that. Let's fix that. Let's just make this list of customers. We're going to go ahead and fill this whole thing so it actually makes it look there. I've got Dave demo _UX. Okay, so now I go into working preview. Now we have our first page of records. And it's using a columnar. We would clean that up, make it a lot lower. But what I wanted to show you is that we take care of all the wiring for you. So if I click ALFKey, the first record, you'll notice it's now highlighted. Then I go ahead and go to the second panel where I put those items in. You're going to notice that the system is automatically wired up and wired up there. So you don't actually have to go in and specify each of these fields what they have to do. The system will do that for you. And in fact, if I start editing this, I can then go ahead and save that data. And again, the system takes care of all the SQL operations to load, edit, and modify data. So it's sort of a little bit of a long-winded answer, but the reality is if you're using a list control, say customers, and then you have your detail view, you will see that it takes care of populating those for you. And now you can also use what's called the form view control, which has even more power to actually display that information from the list. So you have a new form view, which is, think of it as a detail view on steroids, meaning that it has a ton more capabilities, more sophisticated, and really once you get your handle on it, you're never going to go back. They're very straightforward to build and leverage. But we take care of all that for you. So bottom line is add a list control to your UX and then those there. Alternatively, and I'll just show you this real quick, this is for a mobile app. So this is the way to go for mobile. And so feel free on that. You can also go into a UX component, and I'll show you this very quickly. I'm going to create a new UX component, and I'm going to go ahead and just create a blank one. And what I can do is I can go to the data binding here. I can bind my data to a database, but the only downside of that is that this won't have the offline capability. So it probably really isn't the way you want to go. But you can take a UX and data bind the controls directly to it. And just to show you how fast and easy this is, I can go to my controls, hit a text box. I can actually populate the list from a table. So if I wanted to tie this form to a table, I could do so. So I'll go ahead and click that. I'll click on connection string. I'll go to my same one. I will go ahead and select my customers table, as you've seen there. I'm going to let it set up all the buttons and everything else. You'll notice that it's creating all of the different columns in that table, and I click OK. And now what I have here with that wizard is that this UX is data bound to that table, which is a little different. With the other one, the data is coming from the list, so you could have multiple lists on a same UX there. But now I can go in here, and I can go into working preview. And now this is a pure data bound control, so you'll notice I have my controls right here. You'll notice that these are automatically populated, and I can walk through them, and it will go to the different it goes to the different different records, and I can submit it. So it's fairly kind of similar, but the reality is that this whole UX is data bound to one table. With my other methodology, I could have multiple lists in this. Each list is data bound to a table, and then I have detail views that are associated with the list. So it's a lot more flexible. You can put this up. And in fact, I'm doing some cool demos right now. Let's see, which one is this one? Oh, let's see, do I have it in here? Let me see if I have it right here. No, that's in a different one. But what you can do is you can set up and create parent-child lists and parent-child so that when you have a top-level list, you can do there. So a little bit long-winded, but you can use either, if you want it quick and dirty, you're welcome to use the methodology of data binding the UX to that table. It's fast, easy, and it works very well. It handles, you'll notice I didn't have to do any coding, it did everything else. With the list control, you get a lot more flexibility and it's more mobile optimized. A few more things you need to do, but again, it's going to wire up the list and the fields and take care of the edits and everything else for you. So that's kind of a quick overview of how you can data bind mobile sort of controls to a back-end database. And there's pros and cons with each method. Both are viable. But I would definitely move towards lists and that because that's really where the bulk of the more current development and capabilities are being put in place.
Excellent. Okay, another question. We have a couple of alpha launch questions. We'll start with a fairly straightforward one, which is when you download alpha launch, is it empty until you tell the user what URL to use?
That is correct. There is a default alpha server capability that was built into it so that people can play with it and go to our. And as we build more reference apps, we're going to put them on there just so people can see what you can do with it. But then the next step is you have to tell it the specific URL of the server, and then the system will inspect that server, find out what apps are available, present that to the user, and then download it from that standpoint there.
Great. Another question is, does Alpha Launch work with both IIS and the standalone Alpha server, or the classic Alpha server?
That's a very good question. I don't know.
I do know it does work with both of them. So.
Yes, it completely works with both of them. I knew that. I was just testing you, Dave.
Seeing if I knew.
Yeah,
it does work.
I knew that all along.
Okay. Meant to do that. Another question here is, someone had mentioned that they did see some of the control bar videos that Selwyn posted probably up at our video library or in the release notes, but they didn't see that it was available in the software. So in order to see it in the software, you'll need to be using the pre-release version. And Dan, can you show people how to get to the pre-release? It's been a little while.
By all means. The most effective way to do it is you can go into the help, what's new in this release, and it will take you here to our release notes. But then you can click here. There's a button right here to see the pre-release notes. So again, what you do is you go help, what's new in this release. That'll take you to this page, and then you click on this first link that says here's some new stuff, and then this takes you to the release pre-release. Oh, I'm sorry.
It's one more level through.
One more level there. Okay, I apologize. And then you'll notice right here, there's this pre-release build here. Now, I think we're going to be putting it on the documentation site going pretty soon, if I'm not mistaken.
That's the case. I'll check it with Sarah.
And I think that would be since we're just talking about it, but if when I go to the documentation site, it'd be cool if we just had like a pre-release button, and it's all in that. Yeah. But for now, just to let you know, just go help. What's new in this release? This is just the V12 release. This will take you to whatever the current version of V12, which is I think 12.3. And then in here you'll see there's the pre-release build. You can click there. By the way, I also will go Alpha Software V12 pre-release, and it will show up in the Google searches. And then, you can go right to here, and this will show you what the pre-release is. So that's another method. But, we're really focusing on having one point where you need to go to check out the latest release. And in here, it's going to tell you which the build number is, the date of that, the time it was done, and then here are the links to that pre-release. Highly recommend you back up your system, and also more importantly is I always download all of the files and store them offline, because if I ever have to resort back to this release, it's kind of hard to find earlier pre-releases. And then down below, we have a whole bunch of videos that show you the different new stuff that's available in that release. And so you can go ahead and check them out, and you'll see the fabulous Selwyn videos to be able to check those things out and see how they work.
Great. Well, we have two questions here that have to do with security and authentication when it comes to Alpha Launch. So I'm going to just go ahead and take these because I happen to know a little bit about what the future plans are. So basically the questions are, when I log in, first of all, can I log in to an application? In other words, can I require that there be a password on it? Because I might have sensitive data inside this application, and if my phone is ever lost or stolen, I don't want people looking around in it. And the second portion is, if I've got multiple applications, do I have to log into each one of those separately, or can I just log in once and just have it know it's me and let me go from app to app? And the answer is that that feature is not currently built into Alpha Launch, but it's something we plan to add very soon. It's a very common requirement, and it's something that will be added to Alpha Launch.
So you'll have like a single sign-on for all your different apps.
Single sign-on for all your, exactly. That's right. Let's see what else I've got here. Oh, here's a good. I love the hard ones. Here's a good one. Is it?
Yes, you do.
It's not hard. It's just it's intricate. It's involved. It's just they're thinking. So now you just showed an example in which Alpha is reading against a SQL database. But the question is it possible to use a JSON file that's on the server, or maybe even an XML file that's on the server and use that as your data source for, say, your list control.
Yes, absolutely. And if you go in and when I build this list here, and I'll go list JSON, I use the quick setup genie, but I'm just going to click OK. And then if I go into the list of JSON, you'll see I have some alternatives. One is static, where you can just go ahead and plug in static data right here. You can also use a JavaScript function, but the one I like a lot is custom. And what you do is this actually allows you to write a XBasic function on the server that would open up that JSON file and or create it on the fly, and then send that to the list. And so the way you develop this is you create a dummy version of that, with some dummy data, build out your list functionality, and then you can just pull some JSON data and send it right to the list using the custom function. Very flexible, very powerful. So for instance, you could make a web API call to another system, grab that data as JSON, and then just pass it right through to the list. And you can have things like arguments being passed back and forth. So let's say you're filtering that JSON data, you could pass it an argument to the XBasic function. When it makes the call to the web service, it then does that and then brings back only the data that's relevant. So the way you do that is using what's called the custom function. By the way, that also works with a form view. You don't actually have to have a list. You can use it directly with a form view, which is really powerful. You could implement the same methodology there. Now, the one thing you have to realize, though, is that the two-way replication is going to be handled only when you're using SQL backend data source. So if you're planning on editing that JSON data and then submitting it back and then having it update the backend system, it kind of lands in your lap a little bit to do the development on that. Not rocket scientists, but it's stuff there. But if it's a SQL backend, we're going to take care of all the synchronization for you. So it'll be just a little easier and faster to deploy it with the SQL backend. But check out the custom function here. What's cool is when I put in the function name here, you actually have sample XBasic functions that are available, very well documented, that allow you to then copy and adjust it to make it work the way you want to. So again, all you do is when you create that function, I'll call it, get JSON file, and then I'll open it up. I say sample XBasic function. I can get a very raw one, or I can get one with every capability you want to. And you'll notice in here is a full set of documentation, actually very extensive, with sample code talking to you about how you gather the data, how it gets returned, etc. And it's very powerful from that standpoint there. And JSON, if you're using that on the back end, we basically use JSON on all the remote one, on the mobile side. So you're actually talking right in its language from the get-go. You can see it can return this as a carriage return live feed delimited list or an array of JSON objects. So if you have that file and it's just an array of JSON objects, you literally just take that JSON in the XBasic and return it from the function, and you're done. It will do the rest for you.
Great. All right. Here's a great question. This one has to do with responsive or adaptive designs. And the question is this. If you have an app, it says, with the latest version, is there a new method to make a control, for example, a text box, have a size, such as the height, width, font, that is larger, so it's more readable when the web page is shown on a tablet versus when it's shown on a desktop? Or do you have to use the the responsive rules and have multiple layouts and duplicate all the controls?
You don't necessarily have to duplicate it, because you can write JavaScript that will adjust the size of text and everything else, because we're just HTML controls. So you can actually use the responsive rules and have it trigger a JavaScript function that would run through and just adjust the size of those fields using, like, applying a class to those. So you probably create a class for vertical, a class for horizontal, and then you could use JavaScript to apply that to all the elements, because it's just kind of a jQuery kind of function. So at this time, the only way I know how to do that really is through the responsive rules combined with, say, some JavaScript that does that dynamic sizing. But you don't have to create you don't have to duplicate all of your layouts and stuff, because you can literally write that and do it that way instead of having to, duplicate all the controls.
Okay. Yeah. Excellent. And we may at some point go back into maybe another session on responsive versus adaptive.
Yeah, I think that we do get a fair amount on that.
We do get those, and, yep. So it's been a little while, so I think we probably should attack that one. All right. Here's someone who points out that they would be interested, and I'll pass this along, in being able to authenticate a device as opposed to a user. Because a tablet might get passed around. There's a truck. The tablet comes to the truck. Who's ever driving the truck is presumed to be allowed to use the tablet.
Right. Oh, that's an interesting idea, is that it's more in there. That makes, and especially like a factory floor, I pick up a scanner, you know, maybe you identify the person, but your credentials are really linked to the iPad itself or whatever device.
Can I cut in on this one?
Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Okay, yeah. Actually, PhoneGap has a way, and I'll look it up again. But we had another client that was looking for something like this that can get the actual UID of a device or other information from the device, so you can tag onto that to authenticate the person.
Great.
Excellent, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
For a second, I thought that was God calling in, going, I'm in your conversation.
This is Chris Martin, a solutions engineer here at Alpha. Who,
not God, but close. No, just kidding.
Yeah, I'll tell you, smarter than I am. I'll tell you that, everybody.
No, why not?
All right, moving on. I'm actually not seeing a bunch of other questions, so we have about 3 to 4 minutes. So, oh, here we go. So go ahead and type a few in. So the question was, I believe this question was related to adaptive and responsive, and it was a question, it's a question about security. And again, if you're doing authentication, would that require the use of PhoneGap to do it, to get the user ID maybe of the device? So actually, I think Chris.
Yeah, it sounds like there's some hardware level. Now, the other is that you could download and put a certificate. You know, since it's an app, you can download and put stuff there, and then that would sustain itself from use to use. So I'm pretty sure there's probably ways. If you really want to link it to like a device ID or something like that for secure, then that's something that Chris will look into and probably there. But if you want a quick and dirty one, you can basically, you know, create using local storage, like, you know, an ID for that device, and every time someone logs in, it just says, oh, it's this ID, then you know which device is making the call back to the server and can use it from there.
Fantastic. Great. So let me just a couple of things for people who are looking for recordings, because people do from time to time. You can typically find them at videos.alphasoftware.com. There's something in particular, though, that you can't find and you need a question answered. Please go ahead and send an email to guides, G-U-I-D-E-S, at alphasoftware.com. We have another question here, probably one we can't get to today, but we can certainly get to next week, or again, you could just email us and we could find you the answer. And the question was about web security in the Alpha Cloud. Where are the security tables located, and how is that handled?
Good point.
And that was something we actually covered to a certain extent at the conference, but I think we can go into more detail about that in a future session. Let me see what
Hey, Dave?
Yeah?
I did post the link to PhoneGap to where they can get more information on the...
that's great. So that's it there in the chat window here.
It's in the chat window, yeah. I pasted that in there. So you can get like the device model, platform, the UUID, device version, device name, all sorts of information using PhoneGap.
Excellent. And another request for next week is data binding for repeating sections. Someone's finding it a bit tricky. I was wondering if we could address that next week as well.
Yeah, we could look at that. Yeah, please send us more example information and, you know, what's tricky, what's running into. That way we can narrow it down and be able to...
The more you send us ahead of time, the better presentation we can do the following week.
Help us.
Help you.
Help you. So help us help you.
Yeah, thanks. And one last final announcement for those of you who have been waiting for the Northwind database example. It looks like I finally have the source code from Dan today. So for those of you who had seen our presentations on it or the videos and are interested in playing around with it, a lot of cool stuff in there. Try to get that posted early this week, and later this week, so either Thursday or Friday. And that'll go up to our GitHub account, which is github.com/alphaanywhere. So it looks like we've come to the end of our time. Dean, I want to thank you very much for presenting. And I want to thank everyone who wrote in with all these excellent questions and shows up and listens to us each week here at the Alpha Anywhere Demo and Q&A. Again, if you're looking for videos, go to videos.alphasoftware.com, and if you have questions, send them into guides, GUIDES, at alphasoftware.com. Thanks again. We hope to see you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.